Hello and welcome everybody, this is Roland Hartmann from graphicinmotion.com, and in this tutorial I will show you how to customize my Audio Spectrum music visualizer. So first of all, let's open up the project in After Effects, and therefore I go to Open Project and I navigate to the Audio Spectrum music visualizer folder that you can download from VideoHive. Now let's select the After Effects project and click Open. And you see that After Effects tells me that it has to convert this project because it was built in an older version. Actually, it was built with After Effects CS6, so you can use this template with After Effects CS6 and all later versions of After Effects. So just click OK and everything should be fine. Now, the first step is to import an audio file. And to do that, I go to File and click Import File. And in my case, I will use one of these previews from Audio Jungle and import this into After Effects. Now let's move to the audio composition. The audio composition should be already open in the timeline. If it's not open right here, then you can find it in the project panel here and just double click to open it up. Now let's drag in our audio file into this and make sure that it lines up with frame number 0. Now it is important that we shorten the work area to the length of our audio through all the compositions. So let's do that right now. Select this layer and press O on your keyboard to move the time indicator here to the out point of the composition or of the layer here. And now let's move to the render composition 1. And then with the time indicator still at this point in time, let's just press N on the keyboard, and you see I already did this here, so this is already in the right spot here. The same applies for render composition number 2, and here render composition number 3, you see we have no out point here, so I just click N to move the out point to the out point of my audio, just to make sure that you do not render anything that is empty here. You see that the composition is 30 minutes long, so you can import audio up to 30 minutes. If you want to increase this duration, you can of course change the duration of the compositions. So let me quickly mention that there are 3 different versions of this audio visualizer available. We have render version 1, render version 2, and render version 3. We will take a look at these different versions after the setup is completed. Now, with our audio in place, we can move to the next step, which is the visualizer setup. So open up the visualizer setup composition. Again, if it's not already open in your timeline, then you can find it up here and just double click to open it up. Because this template is built only with After Effects native effects, so we do not use any plugins for this template. We have to do a little bit of preparation to make this work. So to make this work, select your audio composition right here, or the audio layer, and you see in your effect controls panel that we have a high and low pass effect on this layer, and by default it is set to low pass and to a cutoff frequency of 70. So depending on your audio file, you may have to change this, but yeah, usually if it's a high quality audio file, this should be okay. So with this setting and this selected, we now move to animation and choose keyframe assistant and choose convert audio to keyframes. Now with the audio amplitude layer that After Effects created, we can move to effects, and now we just take a look at both channels. We are not interested in right and left channel in case you want to use them, but I recommend to just use the both channels. Now let's select this slider here, double click to select all the keyframes, and now we can open up the graph editor and let's see what we have got here. We'll just zoom in here a little bit to make this a bit more obvious what we've got here. And you see we have a lot of keyframes, and this is more or less a representation of the lower frequencies of our audio. Now let's double click this to select all these keyframes, and I want to smooth them a little bit. So I have the smoother right here. If you do not see it, you can open it up by just accessing the Windows tab here, and then down here is the smoother. So you can open it up like this. And in the smoother with a tolerance of 1, maybe even 1.5, but not too much, we can apply this. Let me take a look what this does. And this may take a while because it has to calculate all these points. So we wait until After Effects is finished. And now you see the graph changed a bit. It's now a little bit smoother. We have these curves here that look a little bit different now. And I think that this is not too bad. So I will use it as it is now. The next step that is quite important is that we change the units here. You see that my highest peaks here are at 40 units now, and I want these to be at 100. So let's just drag this box here that appears if you select all these slider keyframes, and just drag this until 100 units. You can see on the left here of my timeline we have these units, and I will just position this so approximately at 100. And this is important. Now, with all these keyframes selected, I make sure that my time indicator is set on frame 0 here. I just press Ctrl+C to copy them. You can also go up here to Edit and choose Copy. It's the same, Ctrl+C is the shortcut. And now let's move to our low layer right here. Open this up and you also find an effect, and you also find both channels here and the slider, but this one is empty now. And let's just press Ctrl and V to paste these into this layer. And this is very important. Now, let's delete this amplitude because we do not need this anymore. And let's move back to our audio composition and audio layer. What I want to do now is I want to create the same thing, but with the high frequency. So let's move to our high and low pass again. Let's change this to high pass. And now let's say we want to cut this at 4000. And now we only filter the very high frequencies. Again, with our audio layer selected, I go to Animation, Keyframe Assistant, Convert Audio to Keyframes, and again, After Effects will create this layer. And again, we just want to take a look or use the both channels here. So I select this and activate my graph editor again, select all of these. And again, I will just smooth them a bit. So let's apply this 1.5 smoothing and let's take a look what this does. And let's zoom in here a bit, and I think that this is quite good. Okay, now let's just drag this out again until we reach the 100 units. Right here. Okay. Looks very good. And now, with all of these selected, double click, I press Ctrl+C, move to my high layer right here. Again, open up this effect, and I have the both channel slider right here. Select the slider, always select the slider, not only both channels, but really the slider down here. And let's press Ctrl+V to paste in these keyframes. Delete the layer, and you're done. Now the setup of the audio reaction is finished. The next option that you have is you can change all the colors. You see, if you choose this setup layer right here on top, then you can access all the different spectrum colors, and you can of course change the background color right here. And one thing that is also important, depending on the audio file that you put in, is the maximum spectrum height right here on the bottom. So here you can change how far the spectrums move. And if we take a look, let me quickly take a look at my curve here. My audio curve, and you see that maybe if I move to a position where this is pretty high right here, and let's take a look how far these come out, and you see, yeah, this is okay. And if I increase this now maybe to something a little bit higher, 2000, you will see what this does. This will make these spectrums higher. The standard value here, 1250, is quite good in most cases, depending on your audio. If you want to change the colors, I would recommend that you just lock this layer here in the Effect Controls panel and then move to one of the render versions that you want to use. Maybe you want to use version 1, so this front here with the one big visualizer in the middle and the small ones in the background. Or you want to use this render version number 2, which is the 3D look here with 2 of the visualizers. Or you can choose render version number 3, which is this with the 3 smaller visualizers here. So depending on which you want to use, I would choose that, and then you can come in here and change the colors. And I recommend this because there is quite a bit of color correction on these that change the look quite a bit. So if you come in here now and you say, I want to change, for example, this spectrum color, and this is actually spectrum number 3. So let's just change this. Maybe you want to make it blue or more into the blue direction, click OK. Now you see that this will change to blue. You can of course choose a completely different color just to show you what this looks like. So you can set up a very individual style of these visualizers. So I will just undo this twice Then important is, of course, the particles. We have 4 different particle colors. Actually, we have 2 particle systems in here. One of them reacts to the highs, the other one to the low frequencies. And you see that the yellow ones here are for the low frequencies. And you see that these arrows here, these small triangles, the green ones, are for the high frequencies. And these both have a birth and a death color. So the birth color is set to green and the death color to this kind of pink. And you see this right here. When they die off, the small ones, then they turn pink. So you can change this. Maybe we want to change the birth color to something like, I don't know, the same here, orange or whatever, red, something like that. And you see this will change the color of the particles quite a bit. You can do the same, of course, for the big particles. So the low frequency particles, they are now set to yellow and this slightly orange color. And if I change this to something completely different, then you will see what this will do. And this will change the color of these particles right here when they die off. Then background color, also important. You can change the background colors, of course. So maybe you want to take a completely different direction, make this warmer. Then you can do so right here with these 2 BG colors, and you can select your background colors right here. If you want to access all the layers that form these compositions, then you should try this little hide all layers button here, and you see that actually there's way more than is visible by default. Here you can access all these compositions, and the same applies for the visualizer setup. So if you work in the visualizer setup and you want to see how this visualizer is really built, then just click this little hide all layers button and you can access all of the spectrums and all of the compositions that build this layout here, this design. Okay, so one more hint. If you want to change the title, you see that there is a small title in here already. It's just a simple text layer. You can also create your own if you want. You can move it around, of course, use another font. You're very free to change this however you want. But to customize it, you just have to double click and then you can come in here and type in your artist name, your song title, can change the font, the color, whatever you want. And if you want to change the color correction, you can do so by selecting the color correction layer. Then we have to unlink or unlock this, of course. And you see we have curves here that does quite a bit of color correction. We have a hue and saturation that just intensifies the colors a little bit. That's pretty subtle. And then we have, of course, a glow that also does a lot of work to make this look cool. So you can also play around with these settings if you are up to, if you want to change the look. Then we also have a blur. The blur is just applied by a mask. You can also change this, just maybe make it smaller or wider and play around with the fast blur settings here. Okay, so this is it with the customization of this template. If you have any questions, feel free to contact me either through my VideoHive profile or through my website, which is www.graphicinmotion.com. Thank you very much for watching this tutorial. I hope that you like this music visualizer and that you create some awesome visuals with it. Thank you very much for watching, and I really hope to see you soon. Goodbye.